I've heard a lot of people talk about Cardi B, and some people are fans while some people are not necessarily her fans. But the discussion of her recent filing for divorce from her husband, for me, raises a lot of other discussions, and I wanted to bring those discussions to the living room. So hi guys, Carrie here. You all know I like the discussion of relationships and human behavior. So I'm back with another conversation. The whole world is buzzing over recent reports of Cardi B filing for divorce from her husband. But we are yet to have this conversation. If you're new to the living room conversations, it's so good to have you here. Let's get into it. All right. So one of the things that has been a very, very hot topic is the song Whap within recent times and the lyrical content of that song. I specifically listened to that song myself to really see why people were using this song as a point of reference in light of Cardi B's recent filing for divorce from her husband. And I would like to say something. While I'm not necessarily a fan of that type of music, Cardi B is an entertainer. All right? She is an entertainer. She's not a Christian, or at least she has never said she was a Christian or was selling Christian music or music that promotes morality. She never said she signed up for that. So to judge her based on that, I don't think is necessarily fair. At the same time, I would say that artists these days have to be more responsible with what they're putting out. Music is supposed to inspire, and as a result, it is quite influential on the younger mind, persons who don't really understand that some of these things are just for entertainment purposes and so forth and so forth. I would not use that against Cardi B, that song against Cardi B, in light of what's happening in her marriage. I don't think it's fair, right? But I will say, however, that persons could take sense from nonsense and understand that this song itself has no bearing on real life. All right? It has no bearing on real life. While some women, as well as men, put a lot of emphasis on just the external appearances, which is not ideal at all. We have seen time and time again that external appearances and superficiality really is a fraction of what's really happening in the real world. It's a fraction of the reality of what's happening in the real world, and does not determine anything other than what it is. Appearances and superficiality. It does not represent whether you will get into a relationship. It does not determine if you will be able to keep a relationship or anything of the sort. So I would like for us to first and foremost throw out that notion and really work on developing real values, things that actually last. External appearances are only for a time, and as a result, we should not put major emphasis. We want to treat ourselves nicely. We want to be kind to ourselves. At the same time, we don't want to go about our lives with a mindset that our external appearances are everything. We don't want to go about our lives, believing that our private parts are everything. When we start doing that, we start setting ourselves up. It's not the real basis of our sense of self-worth, or it should not be the real basis of our sense of self-worth. This is why, actually, when people base their sense of self-worth on these superficial things, that when things do not go a particular way, they are absolutely devastated and disappointed, and sometimes are even suicidal, because they so believe that their looks was supposed to win them certain things. They so believe that their private parts were supposed to determine certain things, that when things don't go a particular way, they don't see a reason to live on. They don't see a reason for being. They find themselves even being jealous of other people who look happy and who are happy, because they feel that they should be entitled to what that other person have because of their looks and their private parts. Guys, that is not the real basis of self-worth, and we want to be wise in how we go about our lives. We need to base our sense of self-worth on our spirituality, what spiritual purpose we were created for, who we are in the world, and our value systems. The next thing that this particular issue highlights for me is that as individuals, both male and female, sometimes we are doing our best to build something, to build a brand, to build a family, to build a network. And by our choices, we can have a lot of regrets, or we may not find ourselves achieving what we want to achieve. I am certain that when Cardi B got married to Offset, she didn't get married with the belief that he will constantly cheat, that children will come out of wedlock with other people, that females will constantly be contacting her or trying to, pull ranks publicly, etc. At no point in time, in all fairness to Cardi B, at no point in time have I heard that Cardi B cheated on Offset, that she was with another man, that she was pregnant by another man. Yet, every couple months, you would see where Offset has a baby mama popping out of somewhere. Some female claim that she was involved with him, etc., etc. This reminds me that we have to really, really be careful of our choices in partners. This happens to both men and women, where they go into relationships, marriages, and so forth and so forth. They try to be their best self, while their partner constantly brings them down, does things that is not in alignment with the plan. So the issue of whether Cardi B goes through with her divorce is really her business. But we all have to ask ourselves the question, do we want to be in a relationship or in a marriage with somebody who is not down for the plan, who is unfaithful, who has no respect for our public and private image, who does not care whether or not the family would improve or continue in a positive vein, who has no sense of self-control, who will continually embarrass us. And friends, we could know if that person have that potential from the very beginning of the relationship, if we don't get carried away with romance and we stick to just paying attention to whether or not that person is a good friend, what are their core values, what is their value system. Let's be honest. How do we know that Cardi B would have asked Offset what he stood for? What is his plan, to know whether or not his plan was in alignment with hers? We don't have to bounce our heads. We don't have to reach to a point where we're in a relationship trying to get out, or a marriage filing for divorce, to learn from these things. We could learn from other people's experiences. So for persons who are dating, for persons who are not even dating, but just loving themselves right now and healing, one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, what type of relationship do we want? And when we are getting to know people, we have to ask ourselves. We can't always ask them. We have to ask ourselves the question and pay attention to their behavioral patterns for the answers. We have to be able to see whether or not we are on the same page with that person to know if it makes sense. So I hope that we look at all of these existing issues as learning opportunities. This is the living room where many conversations begin.